Hello there, this is Mark Smith with Family Tree Counseling Associates, and I am back to making videos after the holiday season. I don't know for you folks, but to me, holidays are sort of a mixed bag. You know, they're fun, but when you're in pain and when you're recovering from narcissistic abuse, it can be a little bit overwhelming. I spent, as a therapist, a lot of time in November and December and January so far processing with my clients their interactions with various family members. And there was some quote, I forget whose it was, but it said, "Never underestimate the power of a gathered dysfunctional family." And that has been my experience. I had a minor surgery, and I've had sort of like a new round of narcissistic abuse stuff come up. So it's been a bit rough with between the holidays and the surgery recovery and a fresh round of narcissistic abuse. But I have just a lot of creative, encouraging things to share with you today. So I'm just going to talk from my heart. A friend of mine sent me a quote that sort of awoke a desire to explore the topic. And the quote is from the great American writer Jack London. And he wrote, "The most beautiful stories always start with wreckage." This guy is among the greatest of American novelists from San Francisco, the late 1800s, early 1900s. So I wanted to start by talking a little bit about Jack London, because he, was the author of this powerful quote. And I was just curious. I'd heard Jack London's name, but I didn't really know a thing about him. And I wondered what wreckage he had been through that he could talk about the origin of beautiful stories coming from wreckage. And the more I learned about him, he seemed like some, late 18th century Forrest Gump. He just had all kinds of adventures and Forrest Gump-like energy. So according to his mother's account, as recorded in the San Francisco Chronicle on June the 4th of 1875, William Cheney, Jack London's father, demanded that his mother have an abortion. When she refused, the father disclaimed responsibility for the child. In desperation, then, Jack London's mother shot herself. She was not seriously wounded, but she was temporarily deranged. So how about that for a start for life? To be born in 1875, dad says, get an abortion, mom shoots herself. And then she's deranged. After giving birth, London's mother, Flora, turned the baby over for care to Virginia Prentice, an African-American woman and former slave. She was a major maternal figure throughout London's life. Some of us are blessed with parental figures who slip in and take the place of our actual parents, and it sounds like Jack London did get some healthy mothering from this Virginia Prentice. In 1897, when he was 21, and a student at the University of California in Berkeley, London searched for and read the newspaper accounts of his mother's suicide attempt and the name of his biological father. He wrote William Cheney, who was then living in Chicago. Cheney responded that he could not be Jack London's father because he could not have children. He casually asserted that London's mother had been having relations with a lot of other men, and that she slandered him when she said that it was his idea to have the abortion. Cheney concluded by saying that he was more to be pitied and that he was more victimized than Jack London. London was devastated by his father's letters. And in the months following, he quit school at Berkeley and he went to the Klondike to be in the gold rush boom. London was born near 3rd and Branham Streets in San Francisco. The house burned down in the Great Fire after the 1906 San Francisco earthquake. In 1889, when he was just 13 years old, London began working 12 to 18 hours a day at Hickmont's cannery. Eventually, seeking a way out, he borrowed money from his foster mother, Virginia Prentice, and bought the sloop Razzle Dazzle and from a oyster pirate. And then this young man became an oyster pirate. I don't know what an oyster pirate is, but I suspect that he was trying to catch oysters and sell them. After just a few months, his sloop became damaged beyond repair. In 1894, he spent 30 days in the Erie County Penitentiary at Buffalo, New York for vagrancy. He wrote about his experience in jail. Manhandling was merely one of the very minor unprintable horrors of the Erie County Penitentiary. I say unprintable, and injustice, I must also say indescribable. They were unthinkable to me until I saw them, and I was no spring chicken in the ways of the world and the awful abysses of human degradation. So here he was writing in the late 1800s, and he used the word no spring chicken. I wonder if that comes from him. So he was a young man who was abandoned and rejected by his father, abandoned and rejected by his mother. He spent time in a penitentiary. He was a hobo. He was a sailor. This was somebody who had a lot of struggles in his early life. He was having to work long hours in a factory. As a schoolboy, he often studied at Heinolds First and Last Chance Saloon. And there's a picture of him as a grade school kid studying at the saloon. This place, I guess, still exists. These days, we wouldn't allow a grade schooler to spend his time studying at a saloon, but it was a portside bar in Oakland. He confessed to the bar's owner that he wanted to attend university, and the bar's owner lent him tuition money to go to Berkeley. While at Berkeley, London continued to study and spend time at this Heinolds saloon, where he was introduced to the sailors and the adventurers who would influence his writing. In his autobiographical novel, John Barleycorn, London mentions the pub's likeness 17 times. Heinolds was the place where London met Alexander McLean, a captain known for his cruelty at sea, and London based his protagonist, Wolf Larsen, in his great novel, The Sea Wolf, on McLean. In July of 1897, London, who was then 21, sailed off to join the Klondike Gold Rush. This was the setting of his many successful stories. His time in the harsh Klondike, however, was detrimental to his health. Like so many other men who were malnourished in the goldfields, London developed scurvy. His gums became swollen, leading to the loss of his 4 front teeth. A constant gnawing pain affected his hip and leg and muscles, and his face was stricken with marks that always reminded him of the struggles that he faced in the Klondike. His struggles there inspired London's short story To Build a Fire, written in 1902, which many critics assess as his best novel. I went on to read that he went through a divorce, that he was a chronic alcoholic, and there is some speculation that he died of suicide. So Jack London knew a little something about wreckage. His health was wrecked by scurvy. He lost his 4 front teeth. He went through divorce. He had alcoholism. He was severely abandoned by his parents. It sounds like he was traumatized in a penitentiary. This guy, he drew his most powerful stories from his pain. And when he met these sailors at this bar who were narcissists and scary, harmful men, he drew upon that. And that's sort of what recovery is like for us, is what we go through can make us stronger, and it can give us stuff that we can share with others. And it's our journey, it's our path. Just as I was reading and researching about Jack London, I got an email from a woman named Lisa. And she wrote, "Hi Mark, I want to start with a heartfelt thanks to you for your YouTube videos and resources on narcissistic abuse syndrome. You've been a beacon of hope and light to me and many others at the end of a long, dark rabbit hole. I am a 53-year-old woman separated for 15 months with no contact, the mother of a teenage daughter, an unemployed nurse practitioner, formerly a high-functioning member of the community, and a survivor, but still far from being a thriver." Can anybody relate to that you're a survivor, but not quite fully a thriver? In my own recovery, I think I was really kicking some thriving into gear big time, only for to be exposed to another round of narcissistic abuse. So not thriving as much, but I know I will get there. Lisa writes, "I have experienced a seriously disturbed, intelligent, covert, narcissistic husband, probably a psychopath and sociopath, for 11 years now. I'm currently in a safe place both physically and emotionally. However, the trauma continues on all around me as peripheral abuse by systems, medical professionals, authorities, and my church. It's really stunning to me to see how manipulative narcissists, who many times employ lawyers and spread gossip, and it's like their smear campaigns are so powerful, and they end up employing so many flying monkeys as if they multiply themselves. And rather than one individual who really wishes you harm, all of a sudden, there's 4, there's 10, there's 12, and they're acting out the anger of the cluster B person, not even knowing what they're doing. Let's get back to Lisa's letter. It's fairly difficult to grasp, as you know, that this is not delusions or some Lifetime movie. My daughter and I are in pain. Due to the smear campaign that evidently began perhaps even as long as a decade ago, we lost all forms of support, including friends and family and neighbors. I had no idea that our stress and hell were related to my husband until his mask fell off. We are basically just surviving in a vortex of isolated hell. I'm going to read that again. We are basically just surviving in a vortex of isolated hell. How many of you can relate to that? I am holding on for dear life for the sake of my daughter, but I am still shattered and struggling. I think that I may need to seriously consider a treatment center, although I'm unsure how I can pull that off with my daughters. I was instructed by victim services in the prosecutor's office and by some of the domestic violence shelters that I should consider just leaving the state and changing my identity. They believe me. I hope that you will find my situation credible. I appreciate any support, resources, or direction that you could send me. So that really stirred me, and I could relate to it so much, and I'm sure many of you can relate to this woman's predicament, because when you're dealing with somebody with a mask and they have these agendas and they're funneling poison into systems, into family members and friends and neighbors, and people don't know. They just assume that they're being told the truth. And the power of a smear campaign and the power of well-trained, fired up, hate-filled flying monkeys is just startling. As you guys know, complex PTSD and narcissistic abuse are very difficult to heal from. Like Lisa, you're fighting for your life. Your recovery process and your survival is a full-time job. Many times what happens to us is you get involved with a cluster B person and you go through narcissistic abuse, but how many of you it just happened one time to, and you're cured? You've resolved your unresolved family of origin issues that you needed to recruit this person to enact. It many times you'll get involved with somebody else down the road, and then you might still be cleaning up the symptoms of the original narcissistic abuse. Of course, the original narcissistic abuse is in your childhood, but in adult life, when you experience narcissistic abuse and you're still in the healing process, then many times you get another round, and then you might be dealing with that person's, smear campaign and flying monkeys. It's challenging. When Lisa sent me this email, at the bottom she directed me to a quote by Dr. Elisabeth Kübler-Ross, famous for her books on grieving. And the quote is even more powerful than Jack London's quote. And so Kübler-Ross writes, The most beautiful people we have known are those who have known defeat. They've known suffering, they've known struggle, they've known loss, and they have found their way out of the depths. These persons have an appreciation, a sensitivity, and an understanding of life that fills them with compassion, gentleness, and a deep, loving concern. Beautiful people do not just happen. I'm going to read that again. I'm sorry, I just thought it was so powerful. The most beautiful people that we have known are those who have known defeat, known suffering, known struggle, known loss, and have found their way out of the depths. These persons have an appreciation, a sensitivity, a compassion, and an understanding that fills them with gentleness and a deep loving concern. Beautiful people do not just happen. We're slowly created as we emerge and find our way out of the depths of our pain. And in my life, this beauty that Kübler-Ross speaks about, I've seen flashes of it. Raising my family before I started experiencing narcissistic abuse was a very beautiful, special, stable time. My children are beautiful. I have 3 amazing children in their 20s. Family Tree Counseling Associates is a very special, beautiful place, just filled with amazing, wonderful people. I hope that my videos bring some beauty and some compassion and some insight into the world. I know that working as a therapist, sometimes when you're bruised and battered and you feel little and you wake up in the middle of the night feeling scared, you forget who you are. And I want to encourage you people to remember who you are. You're good people, and you're not the things that these abusive people say you are. And you don't have bad intentions, as if you are accused of by these people who are just filled with hatred and anger. But I'll go to work feeling a little shaky, and I'll sit down and I'll be able to enter that person's world and offer them strength and encouragement and support and help. And it reminds me, hey, I'm a pretty good guy and I'm helping people. Do you guys ever wonder how your story will turn out? Because there's no guarantee, even with your recovery, that everything's going to turn out, perfectly, like a, live happily ever after kind of story. What we're up against is so powerful and so deep in the tissues of your body that you really have to work on your recovery each and every day to, secure, a good or great ending. So, does anybody relate to having wreckage in your life? When you grow up with childhood wreckage, the way Jack London did, you're going to have a lot of wreckage in your adult life, because you will become a magnet for harmful, hurtful people who are very much like the people who hurt you in your childhood. I want to encourage you by saying having wreckage in your life is normal. Sometimes I'll meet people in their late 20s, mid to late 20s, early 30s, mid 30s. And the way Mother Nature designed relationships, the boom doesn't many times get lowered until your 40s, where you're done with enmeshment, The focus is off younger children, and then either things come out of you that bring up a lot of pain, or a mask comes off of your partner, and you find out that they're not who they said they were at all. It reminds me, one time I met a man in a business setting, and he said, "Thank goodness that I'm happily married." He was mid-40s, "and I won't need your services." And the very next day, he came to my office just utterly shattered and destroyed, because he went home that night and his wife informed him that she was filing for divorce. So as I left that meeting with this fellow, I thought, wow, 45 and he hasn't been shattered. That's unusual. The very next day, he shows up in my office just completely and utterly shattered into a billion pieces. That's pretty normal. Everybody experiences, some deep wounds in their childhood, and they're going to be reenacted eventually. And I just encourage people to embrace your wreckage and squeeze all the learning, all the healing, and all the insight that you can out of each wreckage opportunity. And don't be ashamed if you have some PTSD reactions that are less than beautiful and sane and lovely. But understand that those are PTSD reactions. And be humbled, be accountable, but do not be ashamed, and hold your head high, knowing who you are and where you came from. That if you were wounded as a child, you're going to pick sometimes shockingly, viciously wounding individuals in your adult life, and it's going to shatter you beyond words. And I just encourage you to do the work in 2017, to cry the tears, to watch YouTube videos, to read books on the subject, to do body work. I was watching this morning James Harrison, the linebacker from the Steelers. He's like 39 or so, which is really old for a linebacker. And he spends like $350,000 a year on his body work, on massage, on acupuncture, on chiropractic, diet, exercise coach. He recognizes the only way he can stay young and stay in the league is to really invest in body work. And us recovering from complex PTSD, we need to do body work. We need massages. We need to do yoga. We need to exercise, very regularly to help cleanse and work through the anxiety in the tissues of your body. And we need to lean into a supportive community, and we need to cry some more, and we need to be courageous and to believe in who we are, and to be empowered and to have faith. Some of the most beautiful people that we've known are those who have known defeat. They've known suffering. They've known struggle. They've known loss. They're keenly aware and acquainted with loss. And they have found their way out of the depths. These persons have an appreciation, a sensitivity, an understanding of life that fills them with compassion, gentleness, and a deep, loving concern. Beautiful people do not just happen. So, folks like Lisa out there, I care about you. I think there's millions of people out there like Lisa and out there like me. And God bless us all. We're just going to keep putting one foot in front of another, and we're going to do what we know works, and we are going to get better, and we are going to thrive just a little bit at a time. If you haven't joined our YouTube channel, please do that, Family Tree Counseling on YouTube. Also, every Tuesday night at 8:30, we have a live stream for an hour and a half where you can participate and you can message in questions. And we'll have myself and the team working on that every Tuesday night from 8:30 to 10 Eastern Time. So thank you for watching. I'm going to watch a little playoff football in a little bit. I hope you have a great week, and God bless.